Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a large storm system that is going to be making its way across a good portion of the United States. This thing is going to turn into a actual, pretty much a monster as it moves, especially into portions of Ontario and Quebec, Canada, but its impacts will be extending all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, where we could have a major or significant severe weather outbreak. And probably that's the most concerning part with this system. It will be dropping some snow, though for the U.S. side it will be limited. Across Canada it will be more widespread and broad, but mainly affecting areas that don't have huge population centers, nonetheless still producing a lot of snow. And it will be a wind machine. It will be producing a lot of wind, so that's another story that will be impacting a lot of people kind of more indirectly, as you won't really be able to see it on any of these models that I'm about to show you, as this is just kind of a precipitation outlook. Again, we do have one storm that is currently pushing away, mainly a rainmaker, right? There is some snow across southern Canada into portions of Quebec, city of Quebec. There could be some snow later on tonight. But, this may not look significant, and it really, in terms of storms, isn't, but it was enough to still cause thousands of delays in terms of flights. I saw a news story right there just a few minutes ago, so that is definitely something, that could still be, obviously, a problematic with even a system that may not look so significant on a map like this. And you can see it's big, but the precip amounts aren't too significant. What we are looking for is this guy right here that is causing delays and flight cancellations across the northwest. There is a system across southern Canada right now that is also bringing some snow, broad snow, widespread snow, nothing too incredibly heavy, but 10 to 20 centimeters is still possible. So, a slow moving clipper, so the rates won't be too heavy. There will be heavy rates at some areas, though not overall, and just the length of that thing, kind of the duration, will really add some of those snowfall amounts to be a lot higher than they normally would be with a quicker moving system. Notice what we do see is kind of the cold front of this thing trailing through a lot of the west. It ends up developing its own low pressure off of Colorado right there. We see quite a bit of heavy snow to Colorado, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, into Nebraska, and you can see this snow swath start stretching out. The models are generally in agreement that there will be some swath of snow across upper Midwest here, stretching into the southern central plains, into maybe even Kansas, Nebraska. Now, whether or not this thing is going to be, further north or south than what the GFS shows, there are still some differences, and these events are notoriously hard to predict, and for one reason especially, because toward the north, to the north of this thing, we have a lot of cold air. Towards the south, we have a lot of warm air. When you see these contracting air masses, you often see strong frontogenesis with these storms and the bands of snow that could form, and basically, fancy wording aside, we could see a band of snow, not as wide as this general band of snow, just a thinner band among here that could be stationary for a few hours, but the snowfall rates could exceed 1 to 2 inches per hour. So there are some concerns that there maybe localized amounts that are higher in some areas, maybe even much higher than the general forecast for the general snow, which is ranging around 3 to 6, 7 inches. There could be amounts, maybe if that heavier band does develop, that are higher than that. Notice we do see a precipitation on the south side of this system. This may not look significant, but Tuesday to 29th across this area is a very big severe weather day. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced issued 2 or 3 days out. Again, I said this yesterday and I say this again. I will not be surprised if a moderate is issued for these areas, at least is some sort of a area here. Again, it may not be big, but it's still obviously pretty expansive. You can see covering relatively large metropolitan areas. The enhanced covers 3 million, the slight covers 7 million, and then the marginals 15. But again, it's mainly those yellow and orange colors we're concerned about. And in tomorrow's video, I'll show you what individual risks are the highest, because as of right now, they still don't have that up. It's just a broad, again, the risk for severe weather. Tomorrow they'll show us whether or not it's wind, hail, tornadoes that they're most concerned about. So again, at first, this thing does not look really that impressive. It doesn't warrant itself a massive storm, but again, it's not really represented here, the severe weather here, on a GFS model. But I do want to say one thing that is represented pretty well is that snowy side. And you can see a lot of this cold air starts rushing in. We have a high pressure that comes troughing in as well. What that does is basically exaggerates the wind field from this low pressure, which at 994 really isn't that strong of a low pressure. It's not necessarily weak either, but it's definitely causing a lot more wind than it should be for its size, and that's again with the help of that high pressure as it spins in the opposite wind direction as the low pressure, creating kind of this alleyway. Notice a lot of this cold air pretty quick. It's catching up to the cold front here, converting some of those rain showers into snow. But predominantly for a good portion of the eastern and southern United States here, it's going to stay as rain. Once it crosses into the Great Lakes, though, especially into Canada, Ontario, you can see 988. It's a pretty significant snow system that starts combining with the remnants of that Clipper system that is currently across southern Canada. And you can see some more severe weather across Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and eventually this heavy rain spills into the northeast, with some of that being converted into snow. So maybe areas like Pittsburgh, especially areas that are higher elevated across Ohio, Pittsburgh, and the Appalachian Mountains, could see a thud of snow, maybe 1 to 2 inches on the backside of this. Notice at this point 984 millibars, this thing's pretty strong. 981, so again, this is what I mean. You can see a lot of mixing going on here, maybe some brief thuds of snow, maybe some thunder snow. It's going to be a very interesting event, but you can see that wind field is massive, so there will be a lot of cold air that penetrates pretty far to the south. However, that cold air, even though it does penetrate pretty far towards the south, it's going to move out of here relatively quickly because we have another massive beast moving in from the west, which will be causing basically more concerns in the long range. And notice that a lot of these models, or the GFS, shows that big moisture surge across the west doesn't develop a massive storm out of this. Some precipitation across the northern plains in the form of snow this Saturday. So again, not terribly far out the second system either. I mean, it's right on the toes of this one. It does develop into a little system there. Notice the moisture flow off the west is continuous, so we could see also maybe around early December timeframe growing signs of some a bigger air mass of cold air meeting with the warm air mass, maybe some bigger storm developing. Again, the models have been struggling with this as well, been kind of all over the place, so it's going to be interesting to see. Definitely an active pattern, and the models are, again, anything past, I would say, this upcoming weekend, they disagree quite significantly. And that's, I guess that's typical for this time of the year. There's a lot of activity to track for them. So let's take a look at some of these snowfall amounts across the Canada area. So again, and the U.S. Notice it will drop decent amounts across Colorado, Wyoming. Again, some of these amounts may be higher than what the GFS shows here, especially if the snow is falling and colder, than colder than 32 degrees, as that's really what the 10-to-1 ratio right there assumes. And notice that across southern Canada, Quebec, Ontario, we see quite a bit of that snow, quite a bit of it widespread and significant amounts across the lakes as well, where that maybe, some of that snow converts, or rain converts into snow across the northeast. In terms of rainfall, it will be pretty significant. Obviously, the northeast is seeing rain with this first one right now, but you can see that there will be more added on with this one, especially towards the south where that severe weather occurs. Some of the heavy downpours could definitely be ongoing. Something we'll have to watch for. So again, yes, the most concerning part is the severe weather. However, this will be impacting a lot of the United States with either rain. For the northeast, it could be heavy rain, and then potentially snow across the plains, across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and into portions of Ontario and Quebec. Potentially some very significant snowfall up there. And again, that cold blast of air will be brief, but it definitely will be there. Notice there are some winter storm watches being issued across the northern plains here. There's still a little lack of confidence. Honestly, the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some winter weather advisories issued instead of storm warnings. And then later, maybe if the system, that band develops or whatnot, they could translate some of those advisories into maybe some more warnings. Because for now, the snowfall amounts are a bit marginal for a storm warning to be issued in a widespread manner. But do note, again, this is the European interpretation, so I just showed you the GFS. You can see it develops that band as early as, again, Tuesday during the day, maybe even late Monday, you could see. So a lot of this could be easily underperformed, outperformed, so this could be one of those systems. Notice the severe weather the European shows, it's going to be pretty volatile, and it's going to continue well into across the southeast, maybe even some rumbles of thunder as well, north as a Canadian border right here, further eastward when you get kind of further away from this cold front. But you notice the cold air is pretty fierce. This system does explode into a very large storm. Notice right here, very impressive. Lots of rain, lots of snow, cold air, but again, it is brief. The European, just like the GFS, introduces a very large system, and what it does with that one, you can see similar to what the GFS does. It shows a system across the northern United States, just a bit more further towards the south. Again, we're watching that one closely. What it does, it could easily drop several inches of snow across the northern plains there. These type of systems sometimes can again sneak up and overperform quite profoundly. Notice again the west flow off the Pacific is still filled with moisture, and just like the GFS, the European shows some sort of a cold blast here developing, maybe another snowstorm developing here. So yeah, a lot of activity in the future. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any shortage of that. In terms of the European, its snowfall amounts are relatively similar to what the GFS shows. Again, not really too significant, but not insignificant enough to kind of just disregard them. Again, notice 5-6 inches, again assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Some of this most likely will be falling at higher amounts. Notice across southern Canada these amounts really ramp up. And let's take a glance at this. So 2-meter temperature, this thing will mainly be falling, the snow, across Tuesday into the the Minnesota area and Wisconsin. Around this time frame, and notice that a lot of these temperatures here are in the 28, 26. So that's going to be colder. The snow is going to be a bit fluffier than a 10-to-1. So some of these amounts may be a bit underestimated. 5, I would say you can multiply that by 1.25 maybe, and you could get a more accurate reading of what may be coming. So that would be 7.5 inches. If I did my math right there, which I don't know if I did. And the current radar of the United States, you can see we have, let me take some of these watches and warnings off, but you can see we have plenty of advisories and warnings and whatnot towards the north across with that clipper. You can see the radar doesn't pick up all of it, but it's definitely there, even potentially outperforming. You can see bringing some snow well into Winnipeg right now. And yes, this thing's going to be slow moving, but its cold front, which is now across Montana, delivering some pretty heavy snow squalls, will be lifting into the plains the next few days. And this is the system we're dealing with right now across Canada. Again, you can see quite some heavy rain here with some of these pockets, and some pretty heavy snow towards the north as well. From the severe weather side of this, the massive wind field that will be resulting of the high pressure and low pressure working together, and the sheer amount of precipitation that could fall across the northeast and southern Canada in terms of snow. There could be, this thing is a substantial storm, and definitely one that will be causing some issues. It could be a lot worse if it was slow moving and what's not, but it's going to be one that's coast to coast, so a lot of people are going to feel its impacts. And I do want to start showing you some of these high-res models. So again, we're getting towards that time frame where this thing is far out enough for some of these short range models to start picking up on it in terms of a good chunk of it. Obviously not in its entirety, but notice this is what the NAM model does. You can see Tuesday develops that snow band. Pretty prolific. Snowfall rates could be not prolific, but pretty significant snowfall rates for how far north this is and kind of deprived from moisture. But notice it does start getting that moisture, that warm front and a cold front kind of getting developed here. So again, very strong winds here from this help of this high pressure, and also very significant rain as this thing moves off. So yeah, I mean, from the U.S. perspective, this may not be too bad, but from the combined Canadian and U.S., this thing is going to be pretty big and nasty storm. RGM model, so this is kind of the Canadian high resolution version, and notice that we do have this system. Again, there's that cold front. It develops across the Midwest states there. We do have that, that rain, that severe weather, and then you can see it turns into a very, very large storm system. And if you take a look at the snowfall amounts from some of these high-resolution models, you can see that they're relatively in agreement. The RGM shows some, again, pretty significant amounts for the Twin Cities, for this being, November still. Again, a lot of people are wanting these massive storms. We'll get them, I'm sure. Right now, again, it's still November. Still definitely a little bit early. No, the NAM 12 km from its most recent model run also showing some significance. You can see especially across southern Canada, but even across the plain states. And we'll just have to wait and see what these models start showing, like the HER model. So this is one that comes out every 6 hours. It goes out to 48 hours, and its most recent data is literally an hour old, so I'll just show you it. Again, you can see it shows that band, kind of that front developing across the plains, and again, potentially impacting the Minnesota area as early as late tomorrow during the day. And again, looking at some of these radar returns from this clipper that is seemingly a little bit more out ahead of what the model depictions. If you look at the HER model right now, this is what it shows currently going on, and you can see it's definitely a bit more present, that snow. So we'll have to see whether or not the trend continues. But you can see the HER model will really start showing some of these snowfall rates pick up across Minnesota into the overnight and especially to Tuesday morning. And roughly around halfway there, the total snowfall amounts are already, you can see, approaching 3, 4, 5 inches in some of these areas. So I would not be surprised to see a stripe of 6 inches plus there. And yeah, that's basically it. I'll obviously make more videos tomorrow, or make a video tomorrow as the most recent data comes in and the short range models get an even better look at this. As again, right, we are really concerned about the severe weather right here, which you can see the FE3 starts showing, and that's definitely something we will have to be concerned about. In terms of the RAP model, so this is kind of like the HER version, but like slightly different. Its data also goes out to 50 hours every 6 or so. Yeah, every 6 hours, so in 6-hour intervals again. There's that cold front starts developing, sending that snow to Minnesota as early as late tomorrow. And then you can see that starts developing, and we see it's kind of stop right there. But a lot of snow could fall in that little time slot there. It may look moisture starved, but again, assuming the Kuchera ratio on this model is right, you know, you could easily see some 5, 6, 7 inch amounts here. And maybe even, especially obviously towards Colorado and Wyoming, where this is a bit slower moving. Look at these amounts across southern Canada, also pretty significant. And you could expect that to continue into southeastern Canada. United Kingdom model, I've showed you this for the past few days. It's a decent model. It only shows that the snowfall, though, you can see in relative agreement with the other ones, so that's something interesting to note as well. Alright, that's basically it, guys. Again, you know, stay safe. We will probably see some wind advisories and high wind warnings across a good portion of the United States that will be impacting a lot of people more indirectly from this. And again, that cold blast of air following this. But as I mentioned, there are some growing signs that there could be some pretty significant cold towards the beginning of December. If you look at the Climate Prediction Center, obviously for now they're showing the bulk of that cold towards the north and west. And again, this is through the 3rd and the 7th. Again, I wouldn't be surprised to see this a bit further south. In the 8 to 14 outlook, you can see they expand that cold air. So, you know, maybe they also are seeing signs of this cold air spilling south. And again, this could set the stage for some pretty legendary big winter storms around early December. So if you're a snow lover and you live really anywhere across the United States, maybe not the southeast, as you can see, it's going to be a bit warm there. But, you know, it's going to be intense. And you can see that the precipitation forecast remains above average, right? So any colder air that does occur and this precip overlaps, there could be some pretty big systems. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.